goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds, and here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
Welcome to another episode of the Out of Bounds podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. I'm Nate Sharman, joined by Josh Durso. As always, Josh, you had a great weekend watching golf. A little bit jealous of that. I wasn't able to watch as much as you.
Yeah, I watched so much golf. Yes. And it was.
Did you watch more LIV or PGA?
Oh, PGA.
All right, far. Good
because so it was one of those. It just snuck up on me. It was like late morning, early afternoon, looking for something on TV. It was before any of the college basketball games started, and I just happened to throw it on Golf Channel. Background noise. They were showing the event, the Valspar. And that just cradled right into the 2 o'clock when it came on NBC.
Yep.
I will say I know we didn't really plan for it, but I have some gripes about the way the last hour or so of coverage was again.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that.
There was one really, really badly timed commercial break at the very end that just felt jarring.
I would argue that most of them are bad times, but yes.
It was literally it was the last hole of play.
I thought they would be able to figure it out, but yeah, we'll get to that. Let's talk about a little bit more of a firework ending right at the Valspar. You had Taylor Moore get his first career PGA Tour victory, the 29-year-old, but it wasn't a flair for the dramatic. Taylor Moore finished a couple holes before Adam Shank and Jordan Spieth finished on the 18th hole. So Moore got in at 10 under, and then so as the story would hold, Adam Shank sitting on the 18th tee box here, 10 under lead, needs a par to force playoff. Jordan Spieth needs a birdie to force the play. They also joined the playoff. Neither one of them, spoiler alert, neither one of them would get what they needed. Taylor Moore would win on that green. So let's go through and take a look at both these guys and kind of what happened with them. We'll start with the co-leader there before the hole started with Adam Shank. He hooked his drive left on 18, didn't hit kind of a poor drive, and then he got even a more poor bounce. Got right up, rested beside the tree. So as a right-handed golfer, he couldn't hit it. There's no way he would have been able to hit that golf ball towards the hole as a right-handed player, the way the ball was sitting on the left side of the tree, or the right side of the tree. So he's got two options, Josh, and I kind of want to talk about this a little bit. So he can either take an unplayable lie and hit 3 and take, I think it's 2 or 3 club lengths. So you're kind of, the way the trees were situated, you would kind of still be in that tree wooded area.
Yep.
So you wouldn't have exactly a clear shot. It would definitely be blind. You would have a full swing, however. You'd be able to get to a point where you could swing. And you would have to try to get up and down from there, which was very challenging.
Yeah.
Or you could hit it lefty. So you flip the club over as a right-handed player and swing lefty. So for Adam Shank, his caddy told him that he should hit it. He should take unplayable. His caddy, that's what his caddy said. But he ended up hitting it lefty, absolutely pured it. He's able to take probably about a 3/4 swing left-handed, and kind of trying to get that ball onto the fairway, but hits it a little bit too far, goes in the rough. And he has to hit the third shot from there. So, Josh, what would you do if you were sitting there with, not being able to take a full right-handed swing? Would you take unplayable and try to get up and down to force the playoff, or try to hit it out into the fairway any way possible?
I think it depends. I think in that scenario, it could be your first win. I think you're playing to win, you go for it, right? Like you're not gonna.
Yeah.
Because the unplayable kind of makes it a little more difficult.
That's a hard up and down.
It's going to be a little more luck involved. That said, to have the confidence to take that left-handed swing.
Right, and the nerves too, right?
Yeah, with that scenario in front of you. And I one of the mics picked up on him saying, I absolutely pure that. I can't get this through the fairway. I can't get this through the fairway.
And he did.
What's he do? He absolutely pures it,
right.
Gets it through the fairway. So, I think in that scenario, you're playing to win.
Mm-hmm.
You're not playing you're not taking the money. I saw a couple tweets. I think D-Rap tweeted afterwards. A lot of pros would have just, taken the unplayable and played for the second place money. Just kept it moving.
Right.
I think there's, a bit of logic there, but at the same time,
yeah,
you want to win. You're in that scenario. You want to force playoff.
He hit it incredibly. I mean, the nerves to hit that shot, right? Because if you miss the ball or hit it 5 feet and you're still in the woods and you're hitting 3 still from the woods. So it's a very challenging shot, and he hit it awesome. So He hits his third shot up, and there's kind of a false front to the green, and so it rolls back a little bit. And then he takes his fourth shot, and he takes a putt, hits the flag. It hits the flag, or maybe more so hits the hole, just going way too fast, and goes over the hole. TaylorMade is victorious after that.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much, there wasn't, the dramatics pretty much ended on 16, I'd say.
And then with Jordan Spieth, he hits his second shot, also has that false front area.
Yeah,
he gives it his third shot a run. It's
his was so much closer to getting past that ridge.
It was,
so
yes. It was almost looked like a great shot.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because coming out of the rough like he was, you thought it would release a little more.
Yeah,
and it didn't.
Too.
And it just kind of like died. And
yeah,
then it just fell back, and you could see as he's walking up, he's like in disbelief, basically, that
that's what I was just
the ball's rolled back as far as it has.
It's kind of like a false. He's kind of hitting over a hill, so he can't exactly see it where the ball lands. And you can, and Jordan's so animated too, right? You know, we see that from him, and he's just like, "Wow, I can't believe that happened."
Yeah, I mean, to me, like for Jordan though, the last hole, the 18th wasn't the issue. The issue was the 16th when he hit that terrible tee shot. I don't even think there was a lot of emphasis afterward put on that putt that he missed, that short putt on 17 after a really great tee shot on that tough par 3. At the end of the day, you just can't flare your drive on the 16th hole when you're tied for the lead into oblivion, which is exactly what he did. He did so far right that he never cleared enough land to actually get to drop parallel to where the ball wound up.
Yeah,
he had to drop on the pre-side of the water, basically, and had an absolute mile into the green. He has to lay up, and I mean, it's just, he made a very good putt to save bogey there. Right. That was maybe the most impressive putt that he made all week, because that really, he shouldn't have been in it at that point. Yeah, he should have been out of it because of how bad that drive was.
So Adam Shank made a good run at it to try to make par. It goes a little bit by the hole, about 5 feet back. He knocks that in just to go down to 9 under. Jordan Spieth sitting at 9 under. He takes his putt. He's got about a 4-footer for par to go tee second with Adam Shank, and he misses it.
Yeah, he doesn't care at that point.
That's big for Adam Shank, though. He gets
it's huge for him.
Oh, it's absolutely huge. He gets a ton more money, probably $400,000 or $500,000 more, and gets another 40 or 50 FedEx Cup points. Yeah, which helps him secure his card for next year. Jordan Spieth is definitely not his momentum for, right?
Means absolutely
doesn't mean as much, but it means a ton for Adam. So
I was even thinking when he's coming up, when he's walking,
maybe Adam asked him to miss that putt. Huh?
I mean, he's. You think about how 16, 17, and 18 went for Jordan, and at that point, forget the long. I even think he was probably tuned out a bit on that long putt that he had on 18 to force it. I don't even think he was really checked in for that. Yeah. After he missed that putt on 17, after he had that awful drive on 16, I think he was kind of just mentally like, okay, we're done here.
I mean, he hit a good second shot. It just, like we said, the false front just kind of...
Yeah, just ate it up.
Yeah.
Just ate it up. But,
all right, so Adam Shank, TaylorMade gets his first playoff, or first PGA Tour win. We talk so much about Shank and Spieth, but Moore played a great round, shot 4 under on that Sunday to grab a win.
Yeah, did what he...
Life-changing for him.
Yeah, did what he had to do, and you know what, I would say short of having a playoff, which would have been the only... more exciting outcome for that event. It wasn't as dramatic as some of the last 6 to 8 weeks, which seemed to have just delivered week in and week out on the PGA Tour. It was still an awesome finish. Yeah, it's still a perfectly fine finish, and it's a great story for the PGA Tour. These non-elevated events are working out perfectly. You've got a couple
littered with storylines. Yeah,
you've got a couple names. You've got up and coming stars in the PGA Tour, really good players getting wins and contending, and all of this stuff. It makes for a better continues to make for a better product.
Like TaylorMade 4 years ago, he had health problems, right? Collapsed lung.
Because collapsed lung, and here he is now. I mean, all the guys. It was interesting. I will say. They did a really good job on the broadcast yesterday of telling some of the stories of the guys coming up. Adam Shank is another one. Yeah. As the day was unfolding, they were telling these guys stories, not of Fleetwood, not of the guys that we know, right? Jordan Spieth, but the guys that the people who casually watch PGA Tour don't know. So a win there on the broadcast. I know I kind of complained about, poorly timed
Yeah, what was that
commercial.
poorly timed commercial? I want to hear
It was on the
about
last hole. It was
Yeah.
what it was literally as Jordan Spieth is walking up to the green. So you've got Shank and Spieth both walking up to the most important shot in theory that they're going to hit all
it.
day.
I did see that.
And broadcast literally says we're going to take a quick 60-second break.
Did they go to another break after they hit their third shot? Well, Shank's third shot, Jordan Spieth's second shot.
Yes, that was the
So
one.
they sandwiched two golf shots in between two breaks.
I mean, it's just, to me, that's the one, say, I don't really,
I love watching the guys walk up to the green. That's
Well,
one of my
plus,
favorite things too.
there's a million things to talk about right there.
Oh,
it's
my
not
goodness.
like you need to take like you're trying to fill like dead time during a playoff or something
Right.
like that because you've built it up so much
Right.
like over and over again. Like you're literally just,
Give me a crowd shot because the crowd loves it when that final group walks up the 18th hole, or with any group for that matter. They're going to give them a raucous applause and make sure those guys are
it was a
ready to line up.
130-yard walk.
Right.
130-yard walk.
That's
Just
a good
showed it's
walk.
going to take. It literally took less than 60 seconds, which is why they literally had to take a 60-second break and come back immediately to them hitting their shots. Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's.
I agree, Josh.
Yeah, that's frustrating especially with the amount of competition there was yesterday on television.
Right. March Madness.
March Madness, Liv Golf.
And Liv
We've got
Golf.
one of the three people watching that.
Over in
I
Tucson
was
in
one of
Arizona.
three. I
You
was
were
one of three.
three. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch at the Gallery Golf Club. Came down to the wire, right? We had a four-man playoff as Carlos Ortiz, Brandon Steele, Louis Oosthuizen, and your individual champion, Danny Lee, in a playoff at late on Sunday to try to decide it. Pretty wild. Danny Lee ends up, coming out victorious. He drains a putt from off the green on that playoff hole to claim the $4 million individual prize.
He had no idea. Did you know he was completely shocked? He had no idea. First thing he said.
find that hard to
First thing
believe.
he said in his victories, and I know there was a part of it that you didn't like either. But first they shove a mic in his face, and the first thing he says is, "I didn't even know there was. I wasn't even paying attention to the individual part."
Yeah, his Ironhead
What?
teammates ran out on the green and gave him a big
What?
hug, and they're doing champagne and stuff on the green. It's just a hilarious sight to me.
It is a caricature of professional golf. Do you even want to call it that?
Yeah. I mean, just look at the interview after. I pointed out a point that I liked. They like you said, stick a mic in his face, and he's got actually it was actually more later interview where he had the trophy in his hands, and he says and I quote perfectly of what Danny Lee says. I mean, it was so much fun. Come out and watch us more.
That's it.
So in his victory speech, well, that was the second part of his speech, but in his victory speech, he's almost begging people to come out because if you look at the crowd, there's not a ton of people, right? So he's in his speech where he has his platform to maybe you look at the PGA Tour guys, they're thanking everybody in their lives. They're doing all those things that they do after. He's begging more people to come watch.
He hasn't won a golf tournament in 8 years. What do you expect? I mean, it's just it's God. Watching that, because I did watch it. I didn't watch the whole playoff, but I watched the last hole. I watched the 18th, and then I watched 2 playoff holes, and then I shut it off until the very, very end after I knew it was over. But it's just so you called it cringeworthy, which I think is like pretty.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much it. But at the same time, it's just so forced.
Right.
Everything is so forced. It's just. And the other thing too is you want to talk about PGA Tour having these awesome storylines week in and week out. They have nothing because your guys that are supposed to be your big brand names are just sucking. They're
Right.
bad.
Yeah, I got the
Bryson
tweet here.
DeChambeau
Yeah.
is awful. Like he apparently doesn't know how to play golf.
I don't think in all of his events he's come to the top 10 yet, and even last year.
No.
So, taking a look at the Dan Rapport tweet from yesterday from Barstool Golf, you take a look at the 48-man field. The biggest names were not a factor at all. Dustin Johnson, T13. Patrick Reed, tied 18. Cameron Smith, T24. Koepka, T24. Answer, T24. Mickelson, T30. Bryson, T44. So DJ, Bryson, Brooks, Phil, Reed, Abraham Answer, all these guys they spent a ton of money for, 0 combined top 10s in 2 events this week.
And by the way, coming into the final round, your biggest names that were hanging around the top in the top 5, Mark Leishman, Sergio Garcia, Charles Howell was third.
Right.
But what?
Yeah.
Like there was I saw a tweet yesterday. I don't remember who it was, but when Charles Howell was hanging around the top, there was a couple tweets about could Charles Howell actually win his first two events and as a live golfer and pull down like $8 million in a couple weeks work.
Would be good for my crushers.
I also think like the other thing too is we've talked a little bit about it behind the scenes here, but the forced social media is just so bad. It's bad.
Cringeworthy, right?
Like it's more than cringeworthy. I mean, it's just really, really, it's bad. Like it's straight up bad. When you have guys like Charles Howell, after they win, the next day he posts something on Instagram saying, "Hey, I'm going to be doing more what's in the bag videos and stuff like that. Let me know what you guys want to see more of." And you see the last time he posted something to Instagram was like 6 months earlier. And it was like something that clearly his PR team put together and put out. Not him. Like he's a 40-something-year-old family man.
Right.
Doesn't give a crap about Instagram or TikTok or any of those things. But your live managers are saying, "Oh, hey, you just won, so you have to like go on social media and do this for live." It's it is the definition of cringeworthy, gross, crappy. It's not a good product.
We had some news come out over the weekend. Actually, a lot of it came out this morning from Alan Shipnuck over at the Fire Pit Collective. He put together a piece, and it's really interesting to see some of the tides changing for LIV. We've talked about that a little bit on this podcast, but let's go into it a little bit more. Kind of some of the highlights from Alan's piece. Some players thought that there are going to be 10 tournaments every year. Now they have 14. There's 4 more LIV events than they thought of. That was such a big thing where people said they want to play less, right? Dawson's even quoted saying that, so that's interesting. Team franchises are expected to be up for sale next year, and they could be in the 9-figure range, which isn't really Trump change in my opinion. And the player winnings from the team component, so like Danny Lee yesterday, his team came in 3rd. So I think they won like $125,000 each. Yeah. So each of them on the team. So that money doesn't go to Danny Lee, I guess now. That money goes to the team franchise, which is interesting. Some of the Saudi executives that you saw a ton of last year, Phil Mickelson was playing with them in the Pro-Ams a little bit and stuff. They've been absent so far this year, which points signs for sure. 3 teams have secured corporate sponsors. We'll see what kind of happens with that. And then finally, all expenses are now being highly scrutinized. LIV is no longer paying for travel team expenses. The individual teams pay for that. So we've seen so many videos, especially from Pat Perez talking about last year, the private jets and stuff, and that's appearing that could go away or maybe make it a lot harder. These teams will have to come up with the money themselves.
Turns out it's just a real business now. Weird. This to me continues to it's just setting the table for guys to leave LIV. Yeah. I don't think LIV is going to make it more than 2 years, honestly, at this point. It feels a lot to me like the wheels are just coming off the bus. And
that goes back into our conversation. Are they going to let guys come back to the PGA Tour if that does happen? I mean, I know that's so far down the road, but
I think they'll have to play in. They'll have to find it. They'll have to go through the process.
But they've said they're banned from the PGA Tour. That's what Commissioner Jay Monahan said.
I think part of what the
players
tour
are going to like Matt Fitzpatrick has been quoted saying that he's going to be really against this. You're going to have a lot of guys that are going to be very mad about that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's such an abstract decision, too. Like, the decision to ban them in the first place was sort of weird and abstract.
I think it's kind of,
not really like, was it Jay Monahan just kind of like firing from the hip? Was it something that the whole tour voted on?
Trying to diminish that league maybe a little bit?
I mean, I think it's something that they say whatever to, assuming these guys are willing to go through the process of playing low-level events to get back into the limelight again.
Right.
And I think this, again, focusing on LIV, this stuff on top of what the LIV product has clearly become on television, it can't compete with the PGA Tour.
No.
It cannot compete with the PGA Tour. It will not compete with the PGA Tour. It needs years and years and years and years of development in order to get there. Right. Like probably 10 to 20 years.
At least, yeah.
And obviously, they're not going to have the time. They're not going to have the time or energy or money invested into it right now, obviously, to make that happen. So we're just, I think the wheels are just starting to come off the bus and move on.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think it's really interesting to think about if PGA Tour players are going to be able to, LIV golf players are going to be able to come back to the PGA Tour. Guys are expiring contracts, but we'll see what happens with that. We've said our opinions upon what that can go for. So let's take a look at some of the other headlines. We had a couple amateurs make the cut, huh?
Yeah,
With
awesome.
Ludwig.
That was awesome. That's just cool to see. Like, obviously,
Ludwig, Nick Gabrielic.
yeah, they obviously didn't play too well, especially on Sunday. Aberg finishes 5 over in the final round. 8 over for Gabrielic there. And, I think it's just cool. And this is, this goes back to what is cool about these non-elevated events. For all the talk about, like, elevated versus non-elevated just helping the haves or widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots, this is also a really cool opportunity for some guys that you've never heard of before, maybe some amateurs, to qualify, play, and who knows, compete maybe.
I think Ludwig Aberg has been playing well lately.
Yeah.
And now that we have two making the cut, I think that's history back, and I think they did it in 2020 at one of the events. So pretty cool to see.
And then this story, to me, this is the one that, like, we had some player caddy drama over the weekend between Englishman Matt Wallace, 4-time winner on the DP World Tour, and his caddy Sam Bernard. Wallace was in contention during the third round, took a bogey on 17, and decided to follow that up with a flared drive on the 18th hole. His ball winds up on a cart path, and he opts to hit it off the asphalt instead of taking a drop onto the pine straw, which was kind of scrutinized afterward. Wallace caught the path and basically chunked it. Ball winds up 30 yards short. His caddy gives him a kind of like confused look. Obviously, he wanted him to take the drop on the pine straw. And then they're seen going back and forth on the walk up to the green. Wallace appeared to say, "Shut the blank up," to his caddy before kind of storming ahead of him and walking ahead. We learned later that apparently Wallace was, quote, just frustrated with his bogey on 17 and errant drive on 18, and was further, quote, frustrated at Sam questioning whether he should take a drop before the second shot, saying it, quote, interfered with his flow, end quote. I have so many thoughts on this.
Yeah. Well, it's not the first time we've seen Matt Wallace freak out.
2019 BMW.
Yep.
With his ex-caddy.
Yeah.
Ex-caddy.
Right.
Play better. Like, don't take, like, your caddy is there for a reason. Like, that is quite literally what your caddy is there to do.
Right.
To give you and your caddy, by simply advising you to take the higher percentage shot, is interfering with your flow. Play better. How about play better and don't take it out on your caddy?
Yeah. I think he just, hit some bad shots and took it out on him, right?
Yeah,
but I think that's where the caddy should do a little bit too, is be that, for lack of a better term, punching bag, right? Because there's so many times where you have to get that out of your body, that negative energy kind of out. So, but I think there's going to be a better way that you should be able to captivate that and release that.
The problem,
instead of being shown on camera, and then this is going to live forever now on the internet. But
well, not only that, but if you do a Google search of Matt Wallace, this past weekend isn't the only incident that comes up, and he's basically known for being a hothead.
Mm-hmm.
Who obviously has had more than one caddy in his career. And I will say, watching him take a double bogey, I believe it was, yesterday when he was 7 under par and kind of starting to sniff around contention, it was nice to see. Loved it.
It was interesting too, he's going, shut the F up, right? On the way up on 18. He got up and down from about 30 yards out.
Yeah.
Par.
Yeah.
That's an added part of the story that I think is funny.
They breezed over it afterward. Obviously, like, there wasn't that much excitement in the third round. So NBC threw a reporter at it. Reporter chased it down. Says, after the explanation that we talked about just now, they say, well, they were seen hugging it out on the green afterward. Same thing happened in 2019, and he and his last caddy parted ways shortly thereafter. So this is just a guy who can't keep a caddy, who obviously, if I never see Matt Wallace's name on a leaderboard again, I won't be unhappy about it.
All right. That's
treat your caddy with some respect. Good Lord. It's
okay
not that hard. Like, you're the player. Play better. How many times do we say that about all kinds of bizarre situations where players will, either be frustrated about course condition or frustrated about this, that, or the other thing? It's your caddy. He's there to help you play better. Don't blame him when you play bad.
Some of those Englishmen are a little bit wild in that respect. Looking at you, Trail Hatton.
I don't know. Yeah, Fair.
But yeah, it's kind of comes with the territory sometimes.
So I've got one that I want to get your take on. Last week we talked about the whole TaylorMade Stealth 2 Rory McIlroy drama. So we've been seeing some rumblings this past weekend and last week that Rory might be considering a move from TaylorMade. There were reports last year that his deal is worth like around about $10 million a year. I personally don't think he's looking at leaving TaylorMade.
Right.
But what do you think about this? I think the new payout structure on tour, with there being so much more money involved in these elevated events and there being so many more of these elevated events, I think it's going to change how equipment deals work and how the math works on these equipment deals.
Right.
Because $10 million, while in the old world, $10 million a year of guaranteed money,
A lot.
sounds like a lot of money, but if you're Rory McIlroy, if you're anybody who's consistently in the top 10 or 15 in the world, meaning like the most sought after golfers for these lucrative deals,
And he's a poster boy for the tour, so his face is everywhere.
like you can make $10 million either just by playing like marginally well in these elevated events or in a million other ways through different kinds of brand deals.
Right.
So I'm curious, do you think that this is going to, one, do you think there's any possibility of Rory leaving TaylorMade, especially with all the marketing we're seeing now?
I don't know how I don't know the intricacies of his contract, but I don't really understand
Just
how he
re-signed
could.
last year.
Yeah, he just extended, right?
Just extended, yeah.
So, I mean, but if you're TaylorMade, that's your main guy.
Oh, you're worried. I think TaylorMade is more worried than they're.
I mean, he's been changing the clubs around, a lot lately in the last year or so, and just trying to find what's right for him. And he's, with Rory McIlroy, we talked about so much about how he's not afraid to say anything in a press conference. That's kind of how he rolls. So it's going to be interesting to see. Does he stay with TaylorMade?
He doesn't play their wedges.
Right.
It's not a full bag deal anymore. It used to be a full bag deal. His extension is not a full bag deal. He went back to Vokey wedges last year.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I just don't. I mean, you might know a little bit more about the contract situations than me. How can he get out of that?
I don't know that it would be a get out scenario. I think it might be like let's modify this so that you can play what you need to play.
Right.
Give you a little more flexibility. Because one of the things that I kept seeing online is like, with Colin switching back to an older TaylorMade driver,
Yep.
there might be some piece of this the existing contracts that TaylorMade has with its athletes that I don't want to say requires them, but really, 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 really nicely asks them to play the newest available equipment.
Right.
And I think if nothing else, I think maybe more flexibility will be built into these things moving forward, given that the math is going to change. Otherwise, I could see a scenario where, like, one, you're going to see a lot more free agents, equipment free agents, right?
Right.
Or you're going to see a lot more money because all of a sudden $10 million isn't
Nothing. Drop in the pan.
that's. I mean, for Rory McIlroy, $10 million when he could win 2.5 to 3.5 million per elevated event that he
Right.
wins, when he in theory is one of the 3 best players on the planet. I mean, he could win $20 million just from, winning a few events.
Maybe if he leaves TaylorMade, though, we won't have to see that forgiveness commercial every.
Oh,
For
it
sure.
might be so mad. I mean, we're stuck with that the rest of this season. And I don't think it's going to, there were a few
Forgiveness.
comparisons to I don't compare this to the Bryson DeChambeau scenario, which was where
Yeah.
he just continually badmouthed.
I don't either, right? It's a little bit.
This feels different because it's several guys kind of subtly noting that they aren't crazy about the new equipment. Dustin Johnson also doesn't play the
Yeah, I think he plays
the
Oval too.
newest self driver.
Well, now he doesn't have to, but I think he still does.
I think
not
it's
a
just
TaylorMade athlete anymore. per
right.
se,
I
but-
just think it's that to me. Those are all kind of like signs that maybe there's a break in the link, so to speak, between the
Carbon
players
wood
and
age. Yeah.
between the players and the manufacturer. But hey,
Yeah.
see what happens. It's a lot of money.
I think that's enough for us for today. So we're going to take a break until next week. We'll be on here next Monday talking about the World Golf Dell Technology Championship in Texas. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Always fun to watch the match play. I'll have some of my picks out on TikTok and Instagram as well, and some different reels and stuff. So check us out there, Out of Bounds Golf Pod on Instagram and TikTok. So remember, whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website at fingerlakes1.com. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Out of Bounds FL1. See you next time on Out of Bounds.